Kurt Thomas with the Dream Warrior Review. We're going to have a very special episode right now. We're going to try to tune in to another podcast that Mick Strawn was recently a guest on. I'm referring to, of course, the one and only Retro Movie Geek Podcast, featuring Joel, Daryl, and Peter. They discuss a lot of different films that Mick worked on in his career, including M.A.N.T.I.S, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and there are other things they talk about as well. I thought these guys do an amazing job, so please listen and enjoy.
Welcome to Retro Movie Geek, the weekly show wherein we, your humble hosts, watch and discuss a retro movie, which we define as any movie 20 years old or older. This, of course, means we spoil the heck out of every movie we cover, so if you haven't seen this episode's Cinematic Delight, consider yourself forewarned. And by the way, we're going to be talking about lots of Cinematic Delights, so I guess we'll already be spoiling a lot of them, so sorry. I'm Joel, and I'm joined, as always, by Daryl, who's killing Nazis.
I want to know when you did the black light for Boogie Nights.
No, don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead.
Ooh, I have questions.
Pace. It's just pacing.
That was my one question.
And I also have Peter here. Of course, I always have my Peter.
Ooh, freshly out of the shower?
My Peter is fresh out of the shower, so we're happy about that. And we are joined by a man who, honestly, I'm going to go through some of the filmography. You may have heard of
the good ones.
Yeah, we are interviewing the great Mick Strawn, who is a special effects artist and production designer. He has covered a few movies you might have heard of, just a few. Okay, he's worked on just a couple. Okay, so we've got movies like Blade, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and 4, The Dream Master.
Which we have a connection to.
We do, and we'll get there in a sec. Don't. Okay. Boogie Nights, right? We got Candyman. He worked on Fat Boy. Oh, but you ready for this, guys? Fat Boys, Are You Ready for Freddy music video? And I believe I heard you say in the Elm Street
Combat, Breaking 2, Hercules.
Yes, I'm getting there. Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, the TV movie Strays, which I'm actually going to ask you about, by the way.
Freddy's Nightmare.
Yes, Tales from the Dark Side TV.
Is mentioning all the good ones.
Armed Response.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about Fantastic Four. And all of that and a bag of chips and other awesome crap. Go to check his IMDb page out. The one, the only, Mick Strawn, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello,
Mick.
Hello.
Welcome.
I'm doing the invisible box now. Hello.
You're here, Mick.
Okay.
The mic is on. Your mic is hot.
Oh, am I hot?
Feeling hot.
I was born without an interior voice.
Okay. So you're just going to randomly say stuff.
Well, that kind of like us.
All of us, really. Yeah. I've actually been on medication for a while because of that.
I'll stay away from my mic a little bit.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. So, Mick, we want to talk to you. You've got so many movies that we want to cover, honestly. And I know at some point you would like to, have a family and a life. So we can't keep you here probably for everything. However,
who needs that?
I know. For Daryl, it's overrated. He's had like 18 wives. So Peter has multiple children. I have 3 children, so we actually attempt every once in a while to see them. Daryl, on the other hand, doesn't care. He's like, whatever.
No. Do?
Well, he sounds like it.
Yeah, Daryl just doesn't care. So
raise my kids.
And I forgot to mention Boogie Nights, by the way, he also worked on, which I'm pretty confident Daryl and or Peter, 98% of their questions will have to do with a certain prosthetic special effect in that movie, and they will spend the duration asking about that.
Was there really porn going on?
Hold on. Cool your jets. I want to tell you a story.
Okay.
Nice.
So, I happen to be working with a company called FTF Effects and FTS Effects, and I had just come off of one show, and I showed up the next morning in the office, and they said, we need you to key another. We need you to key another show. The production meeting is across town. Here's the script. Get in your car and go. You're already late. I go, oh shit. Okay, so I grab the script. I'm jamming down the freeway. I walk in and they're just on like the 5th page of the read through. And what a read through is all the main department heads are sitting around a table, and the first AD is reading the script out loud. And at the end of each, a scene or shot, you have to say, this is going to be you're going to be the one that's handling such and such that comes up in that reading. And then you're going to have a little mini meeting on the side after, right? And so I'm seated right straight across from the prop master. And I sit down immediately, and I open the script, and I start reading as fast as I possibly can. And I have the script like sitting on my knees underneath the table, so that's not obvious that I'm only reading about two pages ahead of everything, right? And I'm like, flipping the pages and flipping the pages and flipping the pages and flipping the pages, and then all of a sudden I see an enormous penis whips out of his pants. and you have to remember, I'm just 2 pages ahead. Now, the prop master was a goof and a guy that I'd known for a while, and he knows exactly what's up with me. He knows that I'm only like a couple of pages ahead. And I have to tell you that this happens a lot in Hollywood. I mean, the last person it seems like the last 3 or 4 people that you pulled on are always just jerk right into that big meeting, and they're just barely, it's fun to watch them. Yeah, it's fun to just watch them like catch up, right? Mm-hmm. And so he's sitting right across from me. And I'm 2 pages ahead. I looked down, and he could tell because I just kind of froze. I went, wow. And all I could think to myself was, what the fuck? And I look up and across the table, and I look in his eyes, and he goes, yeah, right. And here it is. And he reaches down into a paper bag under the table, and he flops a great big rubber penis onto the table.
Nice.
Right in the middle of the table. Yeah. And the whole table just freezes. Stares at the penis for a while. And that was my initiation into Boogie Nights.
Wow. So, that seems appropriate. Okay. That does seem appropriate. Yeah.
That is the movie that
it literally went downhill from there.
Well, did you know recently Mark Wahlberg apologized for doing that movie?
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Very recently.
Why?
Because it wasn't another Transformers movie? I'm confused.
I think he thinks he's going to heaven, and he's getting older, and I think,
it's like a guilt thing?
With a penis that size, he will go to heaven.
No. Well, wait a minute. That wasn't his. That's the point,
that was
right?
Special effects.
Well, I know. So, Mick, did you get to handle the Diggler?
Whoa.
Someone had to go there.
Wow.
So moving on to important things.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Okay, I do want to talk about the greatest movie ever done.
Strays or Leatherface?
No, Tomboy.
Oh, Strays, that keeps coming up. Okay, go.
Go, Daryl.
Tomboy. What are you talking about?
Oh, Tomboy.
Oh, yeah, with Betsy Russell.
Did you get to meet Betsy Russell?
Yeah. That's a long time ago, buddy.
Is she nice?
Yeah.
So the point is, so Mick did work on Tomboy, so we'll start there since that's apparently where Daryl and his 12-year-old self wants to go.
Right.
So what was that experience like, Mick?
You know what? To tell you the truth, the only thing that I can even remember about Tomboy was a scene where I was brand new to the business, and I had just discovered this thing called hot glue.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so I little did I know or understand that movies had lights that were really, really hot back then. And we had this odd scene that was a donut commercial in Tomboy.
Yeah.
it involved us hanging these Masonite donuts that I had hung. That I had created, right? And we airbrushed, and we had like these 20 donuts hanging off of monofilament in the air, and they turned the lights on, and I had glued the blocks of wood to the back of them so that they would, so that we had something to hang them off of. And in the middle of the scene, as the lights heat up, they would just like randomly drop.
Oh no!
It was like an effect in its own.
Yeah.
Oh, pretty much
Dropping donuts.
Yeah, I mean that, and honestly, that and having some kind of ridiculous argument with Penn.
Penn from Penn and Teller.
Yeah, from Penn and Teller.
Oh,
Penn and Teller, and we were. Oh no! You know what? That was Limousine. You know what? You're so far back. I'm completely.
It's okay. It's okay. We have that effect on people. Actually, I would.
Well, there was a movie that really meant a lot to me. That was on Fox. It was called M.A.N.T.I.S, and it was like the first black superhero on TV.
M.A.N.T.I.S was awesome.
That I had ever seen. Like, there was no black superheroes on TV at all, really.
Yeah.
And this was like the first that I've ever seen. It came on in the summertime. It was a 2-hour movie. Look at the people that are on it. They had Gina Torres. They had Carl Lumbly.
Wow.
Yeah.
The lead. These are leads now. Steve James.
Nice.
This was an amazing. Marcia Cross.
Eric Landeville was the director.
Yeah.
He's a very, very, he's a famous TV guy. That was an awesome project to work on.
I had recorded that. I'd probably watched it like 100 million times. And then eventually they made a TV series before they made it was great. I mean, you had a guy he was a doctor. He wasn't someone who was a criminal. He was in LA. He had a tragic story. Guys.
We ought to cover this. I've never seen it.
Oh, it's great. He had a tragic story. I think his wife was killed. Was his wife killed?
Yeah, something like that.
And he had armor. It was very close to Iron Man, but instead of the heart stuff, it was that he was paralyzed from the waist down.
And he had to put the suit on in order to walk.
Oh, yeah. I do vaguely remember that, but I don't know that I ever saw it.
And he had and it was a mixture of Iron Man and Black Panther, actually, because he had two students who were scientists who were from Africa.
Exactly, and he had this wild lair that was kind of like Batman, only done in gold and green tones.
He had a ship. Yeah, it had.
I designed that car.
You designed that car?
I designed that room.
Oh,
Daryl loves you now.
You are. The lair. It had those really cool control boards with the light that came back up over the back.
Oh, you my hero.
Remember the car sitting with those lamps that came over the top of it that were just big sweeping, huge things of light coming at the end.
So cool! It was so cool on a TV show.
I've always loved that film. I always thought that was kind of like and Carl Lumbly was so good in it. I mean,
he was incredible. And what made me mad is when they did the TV show, they changed things from the movie.
They fucked it up. They fucked it up.
They
fucked it up so bad.
They added this white scientist because I guess you can't have it that he's smart enough on his own to build the armor.
Whole thing.
Yeah,
not only that, they also did this. They also moved it from LA to Canada.
Yes,
and when they went to Canada, they white breaded the whole thing, including the set and the whole bag. It was like
your lair. The lair had no personality anymore. All the stuff that you put in there.
Oh, dude,
they fucking took it out.
That actually has caught all of that.
Oh, it made me mad. It made me so mad because it was a part of his personality. Like it had its own it had African stuff in there, and the colors blended, and it was just he was a doctor, and he liked jazz, I think. And he kind of had that,
and I did that color scheme I took like African colors and I put like a glimmer to them.
Yes.
And yeah, that was.
It had like an almost glow to it, like the lighting.
I got to tell you, I really loved that set.
Oh my God, man!
I had a lot of fun.
We got to cover that.
Yeah.
We got to
cover M.A.N.T.I.S, and you have to come back for that.
Absolutely.
I want to tell Mick. So Mick, here's the deal. So earlier, Peter mentioned that we had a Nightmare on Elm Street connection as well, but kind of in a way to you without it actually you being aware of it. We've had Lisa Wilcox on the show twice now.
Oh yeah, I love Lisa.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So we had her the first time. We did like what we're doing with you. We just talked about her movies and stuff. And then the second time, we actually, because what we quote unquote normally do, besides go down rabbit trails and never stay on task, is we will talk about one specific movie in an episode. So, for instance, we'll cover M.A.N.T.I.S. We'll all have watched it. If we haven't seen it before, we talk about, okay, this is our first time seeing it. If we had seen it, like, what was it like watching when we were younger versus now, that kind of thing, back and forth. And we talk about the movie in depth. So if you're interested, after we do the interview and everything, maybe in another couple months or something, we can have you back on again. We cover M.A.N.T.I.S. with you, so you could, as you watching it as a viewer, and as well as the guy who obviously worked on it, so it could be weird.
I will declare we do this in February because it is Black History Month.
Oh, okay, you know what? And Daryl, as our resident guy who just gets to pick those movies in February.
That's right. I've got many. Get me to win.
Yes, it will.
I've got many M.A.N.T.I.S. stories, but I'll tell you one real quick.
Okay. Yes.
This was interesting. We got at the very end of M.A.N.T.I.S, and M.A.N.T.I.S was. You have to understand, Hollywood is it's got this kind of segregated nature that but here's I got to tell you this, and this is a strange thing, is the films, even the black people in town will ask if there's anything black filming. This was way back when, in the day, right?
Yeah.
And there were not that many black designers, and I got sucked into that show. And when so the entire crew was black.
Right.
And I was like out of place and really trying my best. And I thought that I did really well up until we did the group photo.
You were the token white guy.
I was the token white guy in the middle.
Wow.
So the thing is for years and years and years, I had seen black people's faces washed out in the crew photo, right?
Yeah.
Because you had 70 white guys and maybe 2 black guys, and they would be black holes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you have to do the color balance, right? So they did a black and white photo of us, and I was a glowing white orb.
You look like the alien from Cocoon.
I looked like motherfucking Neon Jesus in the photo. I was just glowing white. And the weird thing is so the photographer goes, well, we'll see if we could correct it. And when he does, he corrects it. But you could see then that they had the process back then using actual film is you took and you develop it, but you'd hold a little piece over it, so that I wasn't so overexposed, and that piece would put a ring around you.
Oh my God!
So I had to either go with being the glowing orb or being the guy that had a circle around him.
You were the white Jesus.
I was the white Jesus. It was fucking hilarious. It was the best crew photo I ever had.
Oh my God!
That's funny.
I did not have one feature. I literally looked like I was in the middle of being transported.
That's awesome.
In a Star Trek episode.
That's fantastic.
Oh my God!
Now I do want to ask, and I'm sure when we do the M.A.N.T.I.S centric episode, we can. I'm sure you'll have other stories that will make Daryl ecstatic for the rest of his life. So
yes,
I did want to ask you, Mick, and this seems like the kind of question one would ask at the beginning of an interview, but not here. When did you get your start in the film industry? And also, going in conjunction with that, what got you wanting to make movies? Was it something you'd always wanted to do, or you just kind of, fell upon it, stumbled into it?
I had no desire to work in movies. Let me put it this way. My sister was, she was a theater major, and she wound up working in New York, off Broadway, right? Mm-hmm. And she was quite a bit older than I am, and so she worked costumes in off Broadway show for the longest time, and she met a guy who got a commercial for a Canadian safety for the Canadian Safety Board. And what it was, and this sounds so Canadian, they had $5 million that they had to get rid of by the end of the year.
Tax shelter.
Wow.
And so they decided to make a Canadian safety commercial, and they decided to do that because they had so much money, they would do it Sci-Fi style.
Wow.
And so my sister just happened to know the director, and he had no idea what he was doing. So they just came to L.A. and decided to start putting together this commercial. And they got together a lot of the people from Star Wars and stuff did work on it, and she needed somebody to run her crew, but she wound up doing all the set painting, which was really elaborate. she needed a crew, but she didn't want a crew. She wanted somebody to run the crew that knew how to run things, but that wouldn't let it be known that she really had no idea what she was doing. Right. So she hired me.
Nice. Co-conspirator.
Now the thing is I had done a lot of construction and a lot of running crews and stuff, and I came from San Bernardino and ran her crew for 3 months, her painting crew, and I just stayed.
Wow.
I didn't really actually work with her again for 5 years or 6 years or something like that. In fact, I didn't work with her again until I actually got the job on Nightmare on Elm Street 3 to design it, and I brought her on to do the set dressing.
Wow.
So that was, you know what? I just wanted to survive.
Did you have something? Was there something you wanted to do? Like, would you have ambition as far as like other areas that you had wanted to pursue, and this you just ended up going down this trail, or was it you were just kind of going through trying to figure stuff out, and because you had this opportunity?
I was young.
Yeah,
I was. I wasn't as young as most people are in this business. I think it was probably 25 or something like that. And most people that got into the business, they knew exactly what they wanted to do. Uh-huh. And I fell into the art department just because my mother was an artist. My father was in construction. My sister kind of knew the ropes of theater, and I just kept going. Awesome. As soon as I had an excuse, I already had 2 kids at the time, so I was. I remember that I thought it was so easy because I got in that original job, and so within the last week of the original job with CJ, I with my sister, I moved to Canyon Country, which was right above town, and I didn't know anybody, and at the end of the job, all of a sudden I realized I had to go out and get another job. And so I had been listening to people talking around that were working on this commercial, and I heard the names of like certain projects and stuff. And so I just sat down and created resume and started just going around giving out this resume and stuff. And I got work. And I remember that there was when I was about 5 years into the business, I remember I had like a very kind of sketchy period where I had to take all these years off that that I hadn't already been working.
Gotcha. So there was some creative license, is what you're.
So you hustled.
Creative license could have been my name at the beginning of my career.
But I think Daryl just hit the on the head, though. You hustled, and let's be honest, that's the only way you make it in that business, in a lot of businesses, but certainly that one.
Yeah. No, it really is. It really is hustle. I don't think anybody. I think these days I think people look a little bit more towards, your college and background than they did back then.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's easier to look it up now. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, well, no, it is. It is easier to look it up now. I mean, people, before you walk into the office, people know everything that you've done nowadays.
Yeah.
Didn't used to be that way. I mean, and really, in all honesty, all the crap that I've done in my career would do probably another 2 more pages in that on IMDb if I ever actually sat down and
updated it.
Updated it, but I really don't give a crap now. So but I mean, if somebody starts out now, every little tiny thing that they do shows up on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
At different times.
Yeah, sometimes it's good, and sometimes,
Yeah.
Well, what happened? Well, we already talked about recently we talked about Fantastic Four, right?
Yes.
Right.
You worked. Well, I mean, we did a show on that movie.
Yeah, we covered the 1994 Fantastic Four actually in our last episode.
Last week.
Yeah,
last week's. So it's something to have someone that actually worked on that project.
Really?
Yeah.
You already covered that?
Yeah.
We already covered
And honestly, Mick, it is a coincidence because we had already planned on doing that as the first movie of the year with a friend of ours who came on as a guest. And I don't know why at the time I hadn't even put 2 and 2 together in my head about the fact that you had worked on it and that we had you coming on.
You did it on purpose.
No.
I production designed that son of a bitch.
That's awesome. All right, so what question do you have then, guys? Because I feel like there's so many that could be asked.
We got to get in, but I just want to know because we watched the documentary. This is one of the few movies that had its own documentary, right? And Marty Langford, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guy who did the documentary.
Yes.
Doomed, right? I swear I got up and gave him such a ration of shit.
You did?
I did because I should have been on that.
You should have. That's
no kidding.
I really should. I was the production designer. I couldn't believe that he hadn't gotten a hold of me. And he said that he had like some PA that was looking for me that said that I was nowhere to be found, which was an amazingly weird thing to say.
Yeah, it is weird.
In this day and age,
at that point in that day and age, literally all they would have had to do was make a search in Facebook and they would have found me.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, wow, well, that's really weird. So just to let you know what happens when you have really lazy PAs.
I was about to say, when you have PAs half-assing their basic searches.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Flipping through the phone book. No,
I will say from experience, I've done other podcasts where you interview people, and I have had press agents actually say to you, or not answer emails, and they don't realize that you already met the person.
Yeah. Right.
And so when you go back and you say, yeah, I talked to your agent, the first thing they say is, hit on my agent, let them know that I talked to you, and then we'll schedule an interview. And so you go through all of that, and the press agent never gets back to you, right? So you're thinking, damn, did they just lie to me or bullshit me and not want to do it? So you see them again, and you go, hey, man. And then they go, yeah, what happened to the interview? We were supposed to do the interview. And you go, oh, shit. And you go, I sent it to email to the press agent. He never got back to me. So I don't know what happened.
To me, that's a really, really weak connection. It's sort of like, I work with my wife now. My wife does paints these helmets, orthotic helmets.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And we have to ship in and out of here every day from FedEx. She's an artist, and I just deal with all the logistics of it. And the thing that I've noticed is that if something gets fucked up, it's going to be the guy that received your package at the local FedEx, from the strip mall on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you can never count on any supply chain that has somebody that makes $10 an hour.
Yeah, no.
Right. What's the incentive, right?
Yeah, you got to look out for that guy.
Yeah,
right.
That guy's your problem.
Especially because he's probably already planning on being out the door next week. So what the hell does he care?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what? When he was supposed to be doing your thing, he was actually at a luncheon for his next thing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much. That's the way that goes.
Now, I guess the real question then becomes, as far as Fantastic Four goes, because again, I feel like this is one we could pursue deeply. And just to bring it back real quick to Nightmare on Elm Street, I will say there was a great interview that you did. I heard on Elm Street Radio. You did back in June, or it came out in June of last year. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to put a link in the show notes, or Peter will, one of us will. And
okay,
I already sent it to you, Peter, so no excuses.
Oh, so that was the
yeah, that was the link.
Wow. Hey, there's your $10. There's your $10
there you go.
Right there.
Yeah.
There you go.
$10?
So for Nightmare on Elm Street, I would say they obviously they're devoted to the Elm Street movies. I love them, and I feel like there's so many different questions we could ask you. But for the sake of expediency, and because you have so many other movies we'd at least like to touch upon, I would advise people to go and listen to that interview as well. And then if we have you on again, we can maybe go more in depth because you had great stories about the Freddy snake and just the junkyard scene and Kincaid and so much of really cool stuff.
The Freddy snake. It all comes back to the Diggler, huh?
So that being said, so Fantastic Four, you say you're the production designer on that. Obviously,
how was it?
Are you surprised that, considering it never technically got released, that the movie has become this sort of odd cult phenomenon? Right? There's so many people that have seen it.
Because in the documentary, they say that maybe when they sent out the movie to get copies done, it's somehow someone got a hold of it, maybe, that made the copies at the whatever place and kept a copy. That was the implication.
Basically, they're implying that some half-assed PA.
Yeah. See, you know what? You have to wonder about this. You have to wonder about a business that I worked on some multi-million-dollar films that would have the film at the end of the day. There's a tradition that always happens is the lowest man on the totem pole for production, like the lowliest PA, is the one that delivers the film. And this is a long-standing tradition, is the one that takes that film, which has got to represent between $50,000 and $150,000, right, for a day filming. That's the person that would take and load the film into the 1971, Ford Pinto that has 3 bald tires, is running on 3 bald tires and the spare.
Right.
It's called a scapegoat.
And is sent across the town to the lab.
Yeah.
The number of times that I have looked, that I've like sometimes done it like a gag that could not be duplicated, and then watched the PA get in their car or on their scooter.
Oh, God.
On a Vespa.
Yeah, right, on a Vespa. And leave the set with it for a 20-mile journey back into the heart of L.A.
How could that possibly go wrong, Mick?
Yeah.
How could that...
There's a film called And God Said.
Oh, and God Spoke, the making of. I love that movie so much.
And God Spoke, where the guy gets, where the PA gets lost.
Yes.
Take the film in. Right?
Yes.
I swear to God, I was cracking up so hard.
I love that movie.
That part because I'm like, oh God, that's so true.
That movie's so classic. I love that movie.
That and the first AD telling a joke.
Oh yes, he keeps getting interrupted. Yeah, go ahead, check. Yeah.
Cup. So anyway.
Yeah. So that makes perfect sense. Like when he said that on the thing, I was sitting there going, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I worked on Sid and Nancy.
Oh wow!
And at the very end of Sid and Nancy, I built the Chelsea Hotel. That was the set.
Wow!
It was a pretty well done set.
Damn.
I built that whole set, and at the very end, they thought that they had an issue with the. They thought that they had an issue with the gate on the film, And they were literally going to fly back to Britain at the very, like within 3 hours at the end of filming, and we were supposed to eliminate the sets. And Alex Cox found out that there was a rumor that a day before that there had been a slip in the shutter of the main camera. And so he just walked over and grabbed the sound tapes. And then as they're taking him to the airport, he says, you go in and you, before anybody tears the sets down, before I go back to Britain, before anything else happens, you develop the film and tell me if you had a shutter slip. And we had to freeze everything.
Oof.
He had to be put in a hotel, and for a day, everybody had to just cool their heels and stop until they developed the film and reviewed the dailies.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but just think of that. It's just because he happened to grab he grabbed the sound tapes. So they had to, not only did they have to develop it, they had to develop it without syncing the sound to it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that's how easy it is just to grab things. You're going, wow. Yeah.
Well, you'd be surprised the copies that would get out. Like I've seen I've seen the review copies, like the studio gives out to the people that are part of the voting and stuff. And I've seen it on the street. Like I've seen it at flea markets.
Well, you're in New York, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So it's like, it's funny how it's like you break this movie. I mean, this movie's worth a lot of money. If you could get it would make a lot of money for some of these movies to get out and the master copy or whatever.
Yeah.
Get out.
And the thing is the security has never been very good. And I think that they're struggling. I think that Hollywood is struggling with that security these days, just in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's never been good. I mean,
No.
There's so many people working on the damn thing anyway. So
yeah, and we used to call what we used to say. We used to get on the studios with a studio wave. I mean, there was this way that there was this way that you looked. If you look like you should be there,
then you're there. Then
and
you should be there.
waved like you should be there, then you should be there, and they would let you in. They don't do that anymore.
No, that's the old classic. You walk around with a pen and a clipboard, and you look.
That's right.
He looks important.
Look official. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to go.
Let him in.
I will go back to Eric Landeville on M.A.N.T.I.S. We were looking for the location for the house, for the building under where his lair was underneath.
Yeah, he had a nice house too.
So we did. It was in Palos Verdes. It was a really, really nice house.
Oh yeah.
So we got down there and we're like a complete group of black people trying to get into the house. I'm in the very, very back. I had to go back to the van to get my camera. And all of a sudden one of the PAs comes up and grabs me and pushes me through the whole group of people.
Yep.
And puts me right in front of the owner who had just opened the door and went, look. He's
a white guy.
Oh, that's horrible.
No, that's real.
Oh, I believe in it. No, Daryl, just so we're clear, I know it's real. I'm just saying it's horrible.
It's real. I know. As soon before you even finished, I said, when you described that situation, I said,
yeah, you were like, oh my God, the white guy walked back to the truck?
I already know.
No.
That's
Bring him back.
Dude, I learned so much through that film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like that's what our security is. Yeah, especially back then, our security was, but if you acted right, if you look like a duck.
Yep. It's like, oh yeah, sure. Not even a thought. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So instead, on that movie, instead of walking around with a clipboard, you walked around with a white guy.
Yeah,
exactly. You carry a white guy.
Yeah,
a white guy.
Didn't have a representative.
He looks legit.
You needed to have a white guy representative.
I do have to say that at one point, we were definitely filming in the hood, and
He had to vouch for you, right?
well,
I had to vouch for you.
Yeah, it worked. It worked the other way around.
Yeah.
I showed up at a location at 7:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
At a community center.
Oh.
Yeah. I was standing on the footstep there, and evidently the chain of command didn't get the message down. And I had a guy open up a pair of those double doors with a shotgun.
Jesus.
And I'm looking right down the barrel of the shotgun, and I immediately turned around and started yelling for my construction coordinator.
That's right.
Because
white guy
I just realized that is the exact opposite of what had happened to us earlier in the show, right?
That's right. You
should have just yelled, "I'm the token white guy! I'm the token white guy!"
No, you gotta have a representative to be like,
you gotta represent, right?
I know him. You got to be the one to say I know him. It's okay.
Okay. So I did want to ask you about, are you a fan of horror movies in general? Because obviously you've worked on some great ones. So are you a fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people are, right? A lot of people, there are people who work on them that aren't.
Well, you know what? The strange thing about that is that because I came with a certain set of talents, I had to become a fan kind of after I started working on them. I'm not going to say that I got pigeonholed. I loved the challenge of a problem. And the thing is horror films present such a long set of problems. I mean, they are technically the most challenging films that you can do. You know, in terms of you're trying to build a trick. You know, you're sort of like the mechanic that stands behind David Copperfield. Only you're not doing 5 tricks for a show. You're doing your trick. You're doing like 30 or 40 different tricks a day to pull everything together, right?
Yeah.
And I love that aspect of it. And after a while, I just love the fact of being, of the thrills and all the rest of that. And I am more of a fan these days than I was while I was doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I am a tried and true fan, and I have been throughout my childhood. I was a very sensitive kid, so as a little guy, I would expose myself to stuff and traumatize myself. And then as I got into my teenage years, I just became obsessed with like Fangoria and any horror movies that came out, I was on top of. And
But you have a psychological problem.
That's definitely without dispute. Yes. That is 100% true.
Until you see him, and he's just the most white bread dude.
That's Daryl's loving way of saying that I'm soft and horror is the only thing dark about me.
He loves horror.
Is he lifelike though?
I am lifelike. I squeal when you squeeze me.
Lifelike.
He is that.
Yeah, he is such a happy sleep by 8 p.m. kind of guy.
I get up early though. To be fair, I get up like 5:30.
Yeah, he says I get up early.
I do.
I get up early.
My wife used to crack up because there used to be this thing that was called the Surgery Channel back.
I remember that.
I think I remember that.
Way back in the 80s and the 90s. There was this channel called the Surgery Channel. It was I still have no idea what the concept was of a channel that they just.
It was surgery porn. Absolutely, it was surgery porn.
Yeah, surgery porn is exactly what it was. And my wife was just fascinated by surgery porn.
Right.
And the thing is, she would I'd walk in the house and I would almost faint every time I looked at it. She'd go, "Really? Really? This bothers you?" And I've seen pictures of you. I've seen pictures of you in rooms that had organs and blood everywhere, and people dying left and right.
It's not real.
And they go, "Well, yeah, but that ain't real."
Exactly.
You could go for the real stuff and be all right with it. That's the scary stuff.
And here's the thing, Mick. I am such a fanboy of special effects, and I mean, I think with anyone listening to the show and who's ever listened to the show is not remotely surprised to know what fanboys I think we all are of practical effects.
Yes.
To me, the effects men and women, especially of that 80s, now pretty much like Dick Smith on, to me, are like the rock stars. Like those are the people I want to read about. Fangoria, I would always immediately want to read the articles that were behind the scenes about a movie, but when they were talking to like, Screaming Mad George and Yeager, which I know you worked with Kevin Yeager, right, on Nightmare 4. And
right. You have to remember that there's also another angle to all that most people don't, is all the practical effects. See, what we used to call practical effects is we used to break practical effects away from makeup effects. Mm-hmm. And one became something called mechanical effects, and others stayed as makeup effects. Mechanical effects, to me, were always a blast. And that was something where I several times over the years I worked as a foreman for Peter Chesney in his company that did mechanical effects. And mechanical effects were, the difference, right? What are the mechanical effects?
Well, wouldn't it be the one that you build? Like if you want something to explode out of a guy's chest, you had to build that kind of apparatus.
The Freddy worm to me would be mechanical, right?
It wasn't.
It wasn't?
No.
In the walls, it would be.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, that's a mechanical effect in the walls because it doesn't deal with the worm itself is a makeup effect.
Oh, okay.
It comes out of this. It's the term effects. Its definition is anything that moves that isn't an actor or that is not an actor or is not transportation is a mechanical effect.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
so
nice.
you have your rain, your snow, anything that explodes, a good chunk of rigging. Let me give you a really good example. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, okay? The junkyard scene where the cars are starting up and the cars are leaping to get in Kincaid's way. When Kincaid throws a car and hits Freddy, those are mechanical effects.
Poor Kincaid.
Yeah, poor Kincaid. The waterbed gag in Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is mechanical gag. Okay. The fire when the boiler bursts back into flames, that's a mechanical effect.
Now let me ask you this: so would Freddy, when he's coming back together in 4, I think I heard you say that was wax.
Now that's interesting because I was just going to say that's a combination.
Okay.
Because in order to create the heat, in the room, it's a mechanical effect. In order to build the prosthetic that melts in the wax is a makeup effect.
Okay. That's interesting. I actually love an episode where I learned something specific. That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
How dangerous was that particular scene?
Which part of it?
With the flames, doing something where you got to set up the flames and the big. I mean, it looked like it'd be hot as hell in there, but I mean, I know it probably wouldn't be, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination of lighting and flames, and flames always have, especially in California, flames. You have to be rated. You get what's called a 1 card. And you have to go through several cards to get it, and then you can do explosions on set, and you can run flames. People like Carlucci, Lou Carlucci is a 1 card. He does a lot of flames on set. I actually had a 3 card for a while, so I could do flames. I couldn't do explosions.
That's some scary. It's a scary thing.
This is an angle that a lot of people get wrong a lot of the time. Is the term practical effect as opposed to a practical effect.
Right.
A practical effect would be anything that's actually done on the set that isn't done digitally.
Okay.
But the separation between practical effects and makeup effects, or practical effects are sometimes called physical effects. Those are 2 completely different schools. Okay. They're completely different companies. If you hit somebody over the head with a piece of glass, right? Mm-hmm. That glass is going to be a mechanical effect.
Okay.
Because it's moving and it has to be safe.
But then the gash on their cheek.
The gash on their cheek is a makeup effect.
Makeup effect, got it. So, because honestly, because I mean, you're right. I mean, we obviously throw those terms around and I think and I know you know this, but whenever we say like, oh, we love practical effects, what we're saying is we love
the practical makeup effects.
Yeah, the things. The things that are there actually people are reacting to because they're not just a tennis ball.
A really good example of that is the practical effects that were used in Nightmare on Elm Street 4. This was my effect, the effect of the entire theater of her sucking her towards the theater.
Yes.
Towards the screen.
Yes.
Which was done. What we did is we took there's a tractor called a load lifter that tilts, has this huge tilting arm on it. And what we did is we built that set on 2 load lifters, balanced them, and then put all the lights and the seats and the whole theater and the front of the theater on that, and then tilted it.
And you did this in the actual theater too, right? This was it was a real theater, correct?
There was a real theater. Some of the shots are done in a real theater.
Got it.
Some of them are done on the theater that we made, which is actually tilted up with a bunch of people strapped into their seats, but she isn't, so she falls forward. And then another part of it was that we took the front edge of the balcony and put it on a crane and put that crane in front of an old fur storage unit downtown in Hollywood that was 6 stories high, that had nothing but concrete in it, and we built what you would see beams, the decorated beams that you see in the theater. We put those on the side of this building and had a stunt person drop off of that edge, so it looked like they were being sucked into the screen.
And what makes that even more cool to me is we now have Lisa Wilcox. She talked about that being a part of that effect, and now we've got the guy who helped freaking make the effect talking about it.
Right, there you go.
It's a great effect. Yeah.
So you have to understand how many different pieces that was that are not involved in makeup effects, that people don't realize that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the locations that the floor with the tractors was in Saugus, but was up in Canyon Country. The theater itself was in Pasadena, and the place that we did the stunt of the girl falling was all the way down just off of Highland in Hollywood. For Nightmare on Elm Street 4, I used to get in my car at 6 o'clock, drive to the stage, which the stage, at the beginning of the show, Rachel Talalay called me up and we had a discussion, and she said, well, where would you like the stage? I said, I'd like it as close to my house as possible. I lived in Canyon Country at the time. And so she made it 20 minutes down the road. So I would go to the stage in the morning, and then I would go and visit the junkyard, and then I would leave there after a couple of hours, doing some drawing and running the sets that are around there. I would get in my car, and I had a 54 window van, 1954 Chevy window van. I would drive to the junkyard that we were making from scratch. All those cars were moved off of the property, and then the cars were placed back on one at a time, and all of them were tethered back to rail. Those barriers that you see on the side of the freeway?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a huge ring of those all the way around that set that we cabled all the cars to, and all the cars leaned in a little bit so that they would look very ominous.
Yeah.
All those stacks of cars are leaning in, so that so that as you see them, there's already this threatening feel that the set itself is giving you. So I would be there, and I would work with them for a while, and then I would go up to Pasadena. I'd spend some time at the theater, and then head across town all the way to Hollywood, and we would be checking out the set with the beams in it. And then I would leave and go all the way down to the beach in Long Beach, where we were putting our traps underneath the ground with tractors to do Freddy on the beach.
Oh yeah.
And I would get back up. I would get back up to the stage at about 9:00 at night, and and spend probably until 1:00 in the morning, and then do it all again.
Damn.
That was my process for months.
Wow. How did you not go crazy?
Oh, I did go crazy. You can see it all over the screen.
That is true.
So, Mick, I don't know, you may have already seen it in the past, but I don't know if Peter and Daryl have. But Lisa had done a series of location-type videos where she revisited some of the locations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I just put one in the Skype, so that way maybe Peter can add that to the show notes if he remembers, because I won't.
Cool.
But because she went to the Rialto, where I guess you guys did part of that sequence.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, you did.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so as a horror fan, and this movie in particular holds a special place in my heart, which is going to, especially once I reveal what the movie is, it's going to be deeply and profoundly disturbing.
Again?
I know which one.
Munchie.
Not Munchie. No, first off, it's Munchies.
Does it start with a B?
No. But I do love Buffy, and we will have to mention Buffy. I know that's where you're going.
I like Buffy too.
Don't mention Buffy.
Oh.
No. You got to understand something about Buffy. Is Buffy wound up on my resume because I worked with Joss Whedon to do the original setup, and then we left before it started.
Got it.
Really?
So Candyman, huh?
It's okay. No,
Candyman.
I love Candyman, but that's not the one.
Well,
I want to
ask you about Blade after you get done, Joe.
Okay, this is like literally a nostalgia thing for me. Okay, I have mentioned on the show before. I had, for some reason, this one videotape that I had as a kid that I had 3 movies on. Okay, I had Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers.
Oh, yes.
You know where I'm going with this.
Which one
okay.
now.
I had Gleaming the Cube, which makes no sense because it's not horror. I obviously wasn't worried about genre classification at that point.
No,
and then I had Leatherface.
Here we go.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I love that movie so much. Okay.
Yes, you
that
did.
I actually found they had done like a comic book adaptation of it. And I like scrounged the money together. They had this little local bookstore nearby, and I walked over there after school. I think I was in 9th grade or whatever. And I got them, and I don't know what it was about. I just loved, it had Ken Foray in it, which made me very happy. But I love that movie.
Oh, yes.
I love that movie. So I know it's, David J. Shaw, I believe, wrote it. And I know that there's been some talk about how much it got cut, edited down and whatnot. But I'm just curious to know. And of course, Viggo Mortensen, like early Viggo Mortensen's in this movie. And
before he became Viggo Mortensen.
Yes.
I mean, it's funny because if you look at that film,
He was just a Dane back then.
He was just a Dane.
And I can say that.
Yes.
Yeah, he was
A young pup.
He didn't have any of the Viggo Mortensen charisma, or he had that look.
Yeah, you didn't know from watching him in that movie that this guy's going to go on to be Aragorn. And,
exactly. He's just one of the guys on the film. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what was your experience on that? Like, what was your job like? Is there specific things that you can recall working on from that movie? What was the experience like?
We built all of it. I'll tell you one thing, really kind of funny as hell, is the disgusting bathroom. I actually had a real life model for that.
Oh God!
There was an auto parts.
Oh no!
I'm not kidding. There was an auto parts store that was where my dad used to go and get parts to fix the cars in the 60s, right? And I just remember going to the bathroom one time, back in the bathroom, And I'm a little kid, and these guys didn't even think about it. And so I need to go to the bathroom. Well, use that bathroom. And that cutting up pictures of naked women with the disgusting sink, with the toilet that had never seen anything
like soap.
Clean. yeah, like
it had. Wait, let's put it this way: it hadn't been cleaned.
If you carried a bottle of Lysol in there, the Lysol would run for its fucking life.
Oh, wow.
It was unbelievable,
like
and I got to tell you, it scarred me. I'm just looking around, going, "Oh, this is disgusting."
I'll just pee in the corner.
Even as a kid, and you want to see your first, boob and all the rest of that. It was so overwhelmingly gross because there was also that thing about like people. You could see, like all the places that people would put their greasy hands, and it was just, it was as disgusting as you possibly can imagine. And when I first read that script, I saw that bathroom.
You got a chance to exercise your childhood demons.
That's right. We're building this whole fucking thing from scratch.
Wow.
Because I'm putting this bathroom in there.
Wow.
I'm going to get rid of this.
Now, Mick, I don't want to, have to keep you. I don't want to keep you too long. So, do you want to go ahead and we'll wrap it up and?
We haven't even mentioned.
I know,
Tawny
but the problem is the guy has a life, man. I don't want to
He's got to go, man. You can't keep it forever.
But Tawny Katane.
Tawny Katane, I worked with her twice.
I know.
Oh, can you name them?
Which board?
Well, which board and the Hercules TV movie.
Hercules, you got it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There you go. I got to the very first time that I met Tawny Katane, I was backwards throwing an axe at her.
Wow.
Okay.
What a way to
why not?
Now there might have been people. Hey, there might have been people that can say that they've thrown an axe at her.
Yes.
But I'm the only one. I'm gonna say. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna say that I'm the one that's thrown an axe at her backwards.
Yes.
And I made her act and say her line backwards, which was probably one of the most difficult jobs of a young Mick Strawn's life.
So I want to have Mick back on. I hope he will join us again, and I would love to have him come on if we do cover Mantis, which I say if, but I realize Daryl's going to make us no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know where you get if from. I don't know where you got if from.
Yeah, I know. There's no if.
Yeah.
There's no
if. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So,
it's going to happen.
It's been great meeting you guys. I figured that we've had enough fun that we can do this several times.
Oh, that would be great, man. You are welcome back.
Sir.
Works for me.
Plenty of movies to talk about.
Yes, plenty. Yes. Elm Street Radio, the interview you did there. They want to hear even more of your talk about the Elm Street films that you worked on. Obviously, check out his IMDb page. Do you have anything you want to?
I do. I have a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, podcast.
Oh yeah, plug it.
I have a podcast called Dream Warrior Review.
Yes.
It's basically it's my friend Kurt Thomas and I, and he's a technical whiz, and I just babble. Basically, it starts out as a review of a film and us talking back and forth, and then I just usually start mumbling about something and 30
sounds familiar.
It does, doesn't it?
Can you imagine this, guys? No, guys. I mean, can you imagine me doing that?
No.
No, not at all.
I will say this, Mick. I will say this. On your show, is it that you guys are watching a movie that you worked on and you're kind of breaking it down, or is it you more or less are just watching kind of just any movie that you guys strikes your fancy?
We go to the theater and see what's current.
Okay. You know what I would love?
And the thing is usually something current will jog something in my memory, and I'll start.
And there's the rabbit trail.
Yeah, there's the rabbit trail.
Oh, we like rabbit trails.
Yeah.
Go to Lizardo Studios.
That rings a bell.
She does orthotic helmets.
Is it Lizardo Studios for the business you and your wife do? Is it Lazardo?
Right.
Okay, studios, and we'll have all this in the show notes, so we'll have links to it.
Do you have a computer right there? I'll take a look at it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I always love cool, creative, arty things. So
She's very cool, creative, and arty.
Oh wow, those are incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah,
there you go. Snoopy.
Isn't it awesome?
That is really awesome. Yeah, so the Hungry Caterpillar. You can tell I have young kids. The Very Hungry Caterpillar. See that?
Oh, yeah. See, and if you've got young kids, you know all those references.
Oh, yeah. This is great, man. These are fantastic.
Fun stuff, huh?
Yeah, that's great.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, and just to throw this out, Fred Heads, the documentary. I'm going to be showing up in Fred Heads.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, all right. Well, Mick, thank you. It has been an honor to have you here.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, great.
Yes.
You guys have been fun. We'll see you guys.
All right. Have a great one.
All right. So take care.
All right.
Thanks. You guys are great. Okay,
thank you, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So thank you to Mick. That was a fantastic interview. I think you guys will agree, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and the M.A.N.T.I.S podcast will be starting in a couple of weeks.
Honestly, I can say this, and I'm not even joking. I don't know that I've ever heard you perk up, Daryl, like that with anything we've ever done about anything like you did when you realized he worked on Man. It's like, I mean, I think you thought Lisa was awesome. I think you've always been great with any guest we have on, but it was hilarious to me the second he's brought up Mantis.
Mantis is it? No, that
was fantastic. Yeah, it was like you were like a kid. You could hear the kid in you.
Oh, well, it was the first time I ever saw. Like I said, it was the first time saw a black superhero. Yeah, live action.
I actually really want to watch that now. Reading through it while you guys were talking about, because I remember the name, but I never saw it.
You can hear my sadness when I could do it. We could do an episode of my happiness of that movie, and then hoping that they do a TV show. Yeah, and then it took a long time before they got the TV show greenlit, and then the TV show starts, and I'm happy and I'm ready, and I turn it on, and then that's when I lost a part of my soul. That's how I became the person that I am today.
Yeah, and then you watch Kazam
because there's no hope. That's what I learned. There's no hope.
There's no hope.
And don't get too happy.
No. Wow. On that positive note. So, Daryl, if the good people are looking for you online and they want to get depressed, where can they find you?
If you don't see me crying about M.A.N.T.I.S, the TV show,
not the movie,
destroyed my favorite character. You can go to the Twitters. And I'm on The Voice 123. You can see me on my podcasts like Go Trek Yourself, which we have Star Trek Discovery restarting again, coming back from the break. So we have a lot of that going on, and we have Gotham by Geeks, and we have all that kind of cool stuff. It's all on the Twitter feed. And you can see that along with pictures of me crying because it's so cold outside and I have to go.
I'll tell you what, this week has been hell even here. It got down below freezing
shut up,
3 nights in a row.
Shut it up. Because I know
it snowed in Tallahassee.
And shut it up. I don't want to hear it.
That's almost a movie.
It was mostly. It was more of a dust. It was more of a dusting. It was like a little dusting, but still, it technically snowed.
Yeah,
the traffic stop.
Well, yes, because we're Floridians. We see snow, we start to crash into stuff.
You're right. They can't handle snow.
No,
I
they can't.
They don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. Anybody who's not from Florida can't handle a good afternoon thunderstorm because everybody starts driving on the interstate with their blinkers on. I was like, come on. What are you people doing?
Yeah, I ain't driving.
Why are they doing that?
I
think the theory is they slow down. You're on an interstate. We're supposed to be going 75, and they'll go 40 miles an hour with their hazard lights on.
Hey.
Okay. Oh, well.
Get somebody killed that way. Anyway, so that's where you can find Daryl. And Peter, where can they find you?
Well, when I'm not handling 8 heads in a duffel bag,
I see what you did there, because Mick was on that movie too.
Or smooching with Tony Kitane, you can find me
you wish
on retromoviegeek.com or ForgottenFlix.com.
Indeed. I can also be found in those places, meaning Retro Movie Geek and Forgotten Flicks. But
not the duffel bag?
And, well, there, of course, there too.
Always.
I'm one of the heads. Also, universalmonsterscast.com. Go over to moviepodcast.network. Check that out. Become a Patreon patron, and get access to bonus episodes and such. We loved having Mick on. I just wanted to say that. And we will definitely link to the stuff he mentioned in the show notes. So be sure to go check out his business with his wife, Lizardo Studios. That is fantastic. There's some really cool stuff. God, I don't mean it that way. You know it. And and of course, link to everything. He was a great guest, so I'm really happy about that. So yes, any final words, guys?
We did handle the Diggler.
Thanks for listening. Visit RetroMovieGeek.com and be sure to leave us voicemail feedback. You can share your thoughts by calling 484-577-3876. That's 484-57-RETRO. This show is a proud member of the Movie Podcast Network, where you can hear other great shows like Movie Podcast Weekly, Horror Movie Podcast, Movie Streamcast, the Sci-Fi Podcast, Geekcast Live, Retro Movie Geek, and Forgotten Flicks. Love movies? Then you'll love the Movie Podcast Network.
Along with Mick Strawn, this is Kurt Thomas with the Dream Warrior Review. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Retro Movie Geek, for letting us listen into your podcast. As always, you can reach out to us on email at dreamwarriorreview@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at DWR Review. For now, thank you for joining us on the Dream Warrior Review.